Hola, soy profe Amor en cuarentena y hoy voy a describir las funciones de los adjetivos. So this is our second way back review. This is something that in Spanish 2, especially 3 and 4, you'll be familiar with, but maybe you need a refresher. So this is an introduction to Spanish adjectives. We need to define what is an adjective, what is the Spanish noun adjective order, right? What are the types of Spanish adjectives? How do adjectives match the gender of nouns? And how do adjectives match the number of nouns? So let's get started. What is an adjective? What does that mean? What's an adjective? An adjective is defined by its relationship to a noun. It describes a noun, all right? That's its purpose in a sentence. So you'll see the relationship between adjectives and nouns in Spanish are extremely close. They have a close relationship. They're modified. Adjectives are modified by nouns. But first, let's address something that's pretty obvious when you start Spanish. The Spanish word order has a distinct difference with regard to nouns and adjectives. So in an English sentence, you say, for example, you are good students. Right? You are good students. The adjective precedes the noun. All right? You are good students. That's adjective-noun word order. But as you can see, in Spanish, the adjective comes after the noun. Ustedes son alumnos buenos. Ustedes son alumnos buenos. Noun first, adjective second. There are some exceptions to this, but we're not really going to address these in this video because we haven't really addressed them in the lower levels of Spanish in 1 and 2. So for now, it's pretty solid for you to be putting the adjectives after the nouns. That's very much the most common form. All right, so ustedes son alumnos buenos. So remember to put the adjective after the noun. You could see that these mirror each other. So let's talk about the types of Spanish adjectives so we can talk about how to change them to match nouns. So there are basically 3 types, you could say 5. The first one, it ends in an O or an A. These are the easiest ones to match. 2, that end in an E or ista, all right? E or ista in Spanish. 3, they end in a consonant, all right? So the third type ends in a consonant. There are 2 subsets in this one. If it ends in a consonant, it follows one type of rule. But if it's a nationality, that's an exception. Or if it ends in or, on, an, or in, it's also an exception. So we'll go through those as well. So there are considerations, the same considerations that you make with nouns. Masculine or feminine, what's the gender, all right, of the noun, because the adjective is going to match it in some cases. And the number, is it singular or plural? Is the noun singular or plural? And the adjective will change according to that noun. So let's address gender first, all right? Masculine or feminine, all right? Masculine or feminine. If you watch the noun video, you know that is a consideration in Spanish, all right? So the only types of adjectives that will adjust themselves according to the gender of nouns are the ones in number 1, the ones that end in O or A, and the exceptions in number 3, nationality or ending in or, on, an, or in. So let's jump right in to talk about the gender. Right. So I'm going to use alumno and alumna consistently in this video, just so you don't have to focus on the noun. These refer to human beings, so it's referring to their actual gender, but this would apply to any of those masculine nouns or feminine nouns in the first inanimate object. So you could say alumno bueno, or you could say lápiz bueno, all right, a good pencil, all right, just because it's not human doesn't mean it doesn't have gender in Spanish, grammatical gender. So let's jump in. Alumno bueno, alumna buena, alumno cómico, alumna cómica. You can see that these mirror, the adjectives mirror the noun. A good student is un alumno bueno or una alumna buena. A funny student, un alumno cómico, una alumna cómica. The O matches the O here when we're referring to these types of adjectives, these adjectives that end in O or A. So they do have gender, and that gender matches here. Right, there are lots of these. A good way to learn adjectives as far as their definition is to remember them in opposites. So, for example, alto, bajo, alta, baja. You see, these adjectives don't have inherent gender. They're not gendered themselves. It's the noun that makes them that way. So alto means tall, alta means tall. It just depends on who it's referring to. Right. So you can see these are fairly straightforward, O or A, depending on the subject. So the other forms of adjectives, the other types of adjectives that have gender are nationalities, these that end in consonants. All right, some nationalities like Mexicano, Mexicana, that goes to the first category. All right, Mexicano, alumno mexicano, alumna mexicana, a cubano, cubana. Lots of nationalities are in that category, but these are the nationalities that end in a consonant. So alumno español, in this case from Spain. All right, alumno español, and then alumna española. So the first, the one that you see first there, the masculine form, has no vowel at the end. It's the consonant, the non-modified version. So español is referring in this case to the student. He is Spanish. He's from Spain. Alumna española adds the A to make it feminine. So alumna española. Same thing with English, in other words, from England. Alumno inglés, alumna inglesa. All right, and the other exception is the same, really. All right, the masculine form ends with the consonant, and you put an A at the end when you want it to be feminine. So alumno trabajador, a hardworking student. Alumna trabajadora, a hardworking student who happens to be female. Alumna trabajadora. Alumno preguntón, someone who asks lots of questions. So alumno preguntón, alumna preguntona. There are just a whole lot of these, but especially the or ending, there's a handful of them, so you have to remember to use them this way. Now, a lot of these are ones that are modified, like chiquitín, little, chiquitín, preguntón, a modification of pregunta. These do not, the normal 2 and 3 type don't change for gender. So if they end in E, for example, alumno interesante, alumna interesante, there's no difference. Inteligente, inteligente. Same with ista, egoísta, egoísta. No change for gender. Right? And some examples, amable, caliente, grande, horrible. You can see no difference there. No difference there for gender. Grande is probably the more popular, the one that we know, use the most. Then also the consonant, the ones that end in consonant, and they are not nationalities. They don't end in or, on, an, or in. Joven, young, joven, joven, popular, popular. Don't change for gender. A few other, ideal, fácil, feliz, difícil. etc. Impopular, global. All right, so types of adjectives again, looking at number. All right, all of them change for number. Every one of them has a singular form or a plural form. So let's look first the singular form. We already saw this one, bueno, buena, cómico, cómica. You just add an S, just like you would in the nouns that end in that way. So alumnos, buenos. This is the same rule that you use for nouns. If it ends with a vowel, add S. Alumnos, buenos. Alumnas, buenas. It goes for the second one as well. Alumno interesante, alumna interesante, egoísta, egoísta. Just put an S on the end. So that rule functions for both, right? But there's no gender here, you see. Alumnos interesantes, alumnas interesantes, alumnos egoístas, alumnas egoístas. All right, so you see, again, the examples with plural. If it ends in a consonant, you see the plural version here, no gender in this particular case, in the regular ones. It follows the same rule as the nouns do. If it ends in a consonant, add ES. All right, alumnos jóvenes, alumnas jóvenes. All right, this applies to the noun, the adjective, not the noun. The noun is following its own rule, and the adjective is mirroring. So alumnos jóvenes. All right, if alumnos buenos follows that rule. So the OS, alumnos jóvenes, alumnas jóvenes. All right, it follows the same exception that nouns do. If it ends in Z, you have to change it in writing to C. The sion from the earlier one, there really isn't a good example in adjectives. And there's not a lot of adjectives that end in Z. So this is something probably native speakers sometimes forget about. So you can see here some examples pluralized. Here are the exceptions. 3A, if it's a nationality, what do you do? These are the singular version. What do you do? What do you think you do? You follow the same prior rules, the same rules. If it ends in a consonant, which the masculine form will, you put ES. If it ends in a vowel, which the feminine form will, you just add S. So españoles, españolas, ingleses, inglesas. And the same applies to the other exception, the ones that end in or, on, an, in. If it ends in a consonant, what do? You add ES. If it ends in a vowel, add an S. Alumnos trabajadores, alumnas trabajadoras, alumnos preguntones, alumnas preguntonas. So that's our overview of adjectives. Knowing this isn't the same as being able to do it naturally. So it takes a lot of practice. You have to practice doing this. But as I've said in other cases in class, even though it seems like something oh gosh, this is so hard to memorize, oh gosh, this is not as easy as I'd like it to be, your brain knows how to put these pieces together if you just give it enough time and enough practice. And that applies somewhat to most subjects, but to Spanish, you can be fluent. You can be fluent. You will be fluent if you follow the path of going, if you're going in that direction. 30 minutes a day, consistent practice, exposure to all those good movies, all that good music. You can be fluent. It's just not something that happens overnight. You have to work for it. But your brain knows how to put the pieces together. So anyway, this was the introduction to Spanish adjectives. What is an adjective? We answered that question. It describes a noun. It's defined by its relationship to a noun. What is the Spanish noun adjective order? Adjective comes after the noun. Alumnos, buenos, alumnas buenas. What are the types of Spanish adjectives? There are three basic ones. And the reason why you have those types is so that you can know the rules that apply to them. Number one ends in O or an A. Number two ends in E or ista. Number three, it's in a consonant, and then two exceptions for that. If it ends in a consonant and it's a nationality, or if it ends in a consonant that is OR, AN, IN, ON, then it follows its own set of rules. How do adjectives match the gender of nouns? Again, those rules. Watch the video again if you need a review of that, and then the number as well. The same pluralization rules as nouns have, basically. So, I hope all is well. Hasta pronto.